perspectives, different views, one voice.
Welcome to the LDN Perspective Podcast. My name is Kojo.
Chris.
And we have ourselves one of our, it's not even a special guest, you might as well say. It's one of our main guests, who is Mo. Mo, a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I would like to get involved in community youth projects and workshops, and I'm all about joining the conversation and seeing what value I can add.
Cool. So today, our conversation is around cancel culture. So just doing a bit of research on the whole idea of this cancel culture. Let me see if I could get a bit of a definition on this. So this is from CNN, and the article is entitled "Why Cancel Culture Doesn't Always Work." In regards to how they define cancel culture, the dictionary definition of cancel is to destroy the false effectiveness or validity of. So when people say they're cancelling a famous person, that's essentially what they're trying to do. They want to take away their power or their cultural capital. They want to diminish their significance, whether it's a personal boycott or a public shaming. This is according to the CNN. So I guess our conversation really is just looking through the whole idea of cancel culture. And I guess we could always start from the UK anyway. But just before I start putting out some examples out there, what do you guys understand of the whole cancel culture? Like, what do you understand of the cancel culture, really? Not whether it's right or wrong, but what does it mean to you?
Well, from my understanding, it's more a really thing that started mainly in social media, where the general public can basically, in numbers, cancel their subscriptions, following, or support towards any individual or business or company in relations to things that they may have done wrong or they deem to be wrong or not in the best interest of their social group or community. And this is done by literally either plastering, highlighting what they've done wrong, cancelling subscriptions, and things like that.
Chris?
Yeah, that's exactly what I see it as. I used to actually think it was quite negative, but to be honest, when I actually think about it, on the balance side of it, it's got certain positive aspects in the sense of it brings to light certain things that people might do that they might have got away with before, where they don't get away with now, and it's almost like society checking itself in that sense, but at the same time, people just take it too far. Do you understand? But it's just people saying, okay, no, in general, these ain't things that we should be doing. Do you see what I mean? But yeah.
Okay, so I think, very interesting. And I think, obviously, just looking at the UK, we've had people like Maya Jama in the past, and I think her past posts where she was almost having to go at like darkest shade and black women, and we knew the repercussions of that at some point. We've had people like London. We've also had the conversations around, even in the podcast community, where we had some of our other podcast hosts, and this is not me directly talking about the situation as if I know about it, but in regards to some of the media streams that I followed, like we have a podcast, 3 Shots of Tequila, and the whole conversation around that, and the Receipts podcast with the women, and what transpired with one of the members of the 3 Shots of Tequila podcast allegedly doing something that they shouldn't have done, which then people dug up past posts that they've kind of put out there, and then start saying that due to that we know who you are, and that whole cancelling idea that you're not of the right type of thing. And I guess that's what really we want to kind of get into. So I guess cancelling culture, is it right? Is it wrong? What's your guys' view on it? Right.
From the sound of it, it sounds like something that definitely started out right in good intentions, as in this is someone that may be in a prominent position or is out there influencing lots of people, but then there's a past or something that they've done that may not be highlighted or people aren't aware. And if they were aware, would they still have the same support for that person? My thing is that yes, it's good that it's been brought to attention, but then my problem with it is the terms. There are no real terms with the whole cancel culture, in terms of, are you judging someone on something they did 10 years ago? Do you believe that someone is the same person as they are now as to what they were 10 years ago? Is there the context of what happened at that time included in certain things? And I just think that intentions matter. And people should judge intentions of what they were trying to do. If what they did, they were intentionally trying to hurt someone or be vindictive or anything like that. Or if they were, as some people might say, stupid or ignorant, or literally didn't really have any idea of what the impact was, and was just simply having fun or joining in the laugh at that time in their social circle or community.
So I guess when you're saying that and you're talking about intentions matter, and I'll just give this specific case, and I'm saying here to our listeners on this podcast, I'm not trying to really throw shades at anyone, so please be clear. It's just to really to aid the conversation that we're trying to have. So in regards to this whole 3 shots of tequila and receipts podcast, I find it quite fascinating regarding what actually transpired.
Yeah.
And then in regards to what this actual member did and how that's come back and what people are saying about it. And then you talk about intentions, right? So a lot of the times, because we live in this world where it's more social media kind of paints a picture of who you're meant to be, because people don't really know you because they're not your friends like that. So it's only what you put out there is what people are going to consume, right? So when you put certain stuff out there, people have consumed that. Then it's almost like you get to this plateau level where you've done something which people see as so bad or so out of character. Then it makes them want to dig up who you were before type of thing. Because, for instance, this example that I'm really trying to paint is that people have digged up past posts to then paint a picture of who he is now. That picture is not necessarily correct because, as you mentioned, things that they've done in the past might not actually represent who they are now. But then what I'm trying to say here, though, is because people are so far away from the actual reality, is that not actually a fair thing in their mind of how they could actually understand the type of person that someone could be in a social media platform?
I think that's a fair comment, but in terms of the whole cancel culture, its main purpose is more dismissive as opposed to allowing that individual to comment back or to explain or to add context to what had transpired or happened. And that's what I mean by the terms of this whole cancel culture. There's no actual terms or some kind of consistency or something to follow by, because it then just can be manipulated. I can think, oh, you know what, this person is doing well, let me find anything about it. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as I can paint it in the wrong way, throw some dirt on him, affect his money, he's no longer doing well, boom, done.
I think some people actually do that. I think some people target certain celebs and do that. You know that certain celebs, like some, it's probably fans half of the time, because it's just fans of certain celebs. They might be that, all right, let's say now the whole Nicki Cardi B thing, for example. So there might be that Nicki fan saying, all right, Cardi B, I hate this woman now because she's Nicki's rival, whatever. So they might look for anything and then they'll bring it up. But the thing is, that's what you said is the context and everything else behind it. They won't allow that person to even, because it's more like they're just target. It's more, it becomes like a lynch mob. Do you understand? And that's the negative part of, I thought, the cancel culture is that if someone has purposely tried to bring out your old tweets or your history, they're doing it to be vindictive, so obviously a mob can form to condemn you. That's obviously the intention of the original person who's done it. Do you understand? So it can catch traction to bring that let's say that powerhouse down. That's what the intention is, and that's the issue of it. Because I don't feel like there's some people that do it, and it's like you said, there could be different reasons. That okay, this person's a prominent figure in the community, but let's just remind you that he said this. Do you understand? Just to give someone perspective. There's those people that do that. And then there's someone that's like, well, yo, where did that tweet come from? Like, it's someone where is someone who's just had a note, they're just going through their career and then a random tweet pops up. Like someone's thrown back a tweet. They found the tweet from, I don't know, 2005. And you'd be like, well, yo, where's the surface from? Because this person has been quiet. They haven't done anything, like they're not in the media for any, I don't know, wild stuff at the moment kind of thing. So you can tell there's some people that's just literally, they might have a vendetta, do you understand what I mean, against that person, a fan. And they might just say, okay, we've got it. We've got something. Because before, what could you really get celebs on? Or just people that were popular? You couldn't, once they made it past a certain level, all their old dirt was gone.
But then I guess...
You get what I'm saying? That before, that's how it was. That once you was gone clear, it don't even really matter what you did before. Because your struggle didn't matter. Because you've gone clear now. You've gone past the glass ceiling. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, but it's not because people were not having those conversations. I feel like it's because people didn't have the platform to address some of these things. So before, because social media was not that prominent, then they would definitely describe the case as you're mentioning. Once you go past a certain barrier, you're unattainable because people don't have the platform to be throwing these shades at you. Yeah. And now you kind of have that. But then I guess when I say, is it actually right or wrong, don't we feel that at some point people need to be held accountable, just even based on the point that you said, because it feels like you're such on the pinnacle of your career and you have all this money and whatever, and no one can really say anything to you. But do we need to hold people accountable for things that they've said? Because if we were on here say that cancel culture is not right, let's say for instance, if that's where we're kind of like going towards. But then we do also understand that there are people that have thrown certain shade, they've said certain hurtful things, and they've never really come out and said anything about it. So this is my standpoint. My standpoint on this is that what you said 10 years ago does not matter. It's who you are now. That's what matters, right? But then, added to that point, if you know you said certain stuff 10 years ago, especially because you have the platform to actually address those, and if you've actually changed your thought process, then I think it's useful for you to address those before someone digs it out. It's almost like opening your wardrobe skeleton or something. It's almost like bringing that out to the public to say, okay, I have said some of these things, especially if you're not public domain and you're talking about certain stuff. It makes sense to address those before it's mentioned, because then people understand that, yes, you said some of these things, but you've kind of changed. I think the problem that people have is because they feel like it might be someone's trying to hide their past. So you're trying to hide it. You don't want it to resurface because people are going to make judgment. And it's not necessarily that I'm saying it's right for people to make judgment, but people are only going to make judgment based on where you position yourself now. So is that not part of the conversation then to say, because it's accountability, is that part of it?
You know what you're saying I agree with. Some of it I might say you might not necessarily remember everything you did or said back in the day.
Fair point.
To be bringing it up to the forefront like that. Yeah. But I do feel that I like the cancel culture in a sense whereby if you have a sheep's in wolf's clothing that might come up and say, all right, cool, I'm going to support this gay community campaign, blah, 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 this, that. And then, I don't know, 8 years ago, there's a social media comment where they've said something against something homophobic. I feel it is a very good, valid question for the community to ask you, what was it around you saying those things that you said at the time? Why did you say it? And is that something you believe now? Do you get what I mean? But the other problem with the cancel culture is it doesn't give those questions. It's, you know what, this person said this, blah, 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 blah. You can't listen to what he says now because he was homophobic, blah, 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 this, that. He's not about representing the homosexual community in that sense. Don't believe what this person says. And that's the cancel side of it that I have an issue with. But I do like that they can address certain things because we need to know there's questions that need to be answered. But are they allowing them to be answered?
Yeah, and the thing is, if I'm basing it on what I see on social media, this might be a bit controversial, but a lot of the people that are cancelling come across as bitter. Like, if I'm being hella real, like, if you go through the comments of certain, like, let's say now, for example, the Maya Jama thing on the Stefflon Don I was just as angry as any other. Do you get what I'm saying? And obviously, I might not be as angry as, let's say, a black woman herself, because obviously that's who it was directed at. But obviously, in my head, I'm thinking, nah, these women are done out here. Do you get what I'm saying? In my head, they're done out here.
Cut it.
They're done out here. Like, especially Stefan Dal. Like, when I saw Stefan Dal, I was like,
What did she say?
she was talking hella grease. Like, it was one of them ones where I was like, you're moving young. Like, it's stuff you expect in the
Was she
playground.
young when she said it?
No, but that's the thing. When these lot keep saying that they're young, but it's like, no, again, I think we spoke about the time.
Yeah, no.
I think she was in her mid-20s when she was saying it. And my thing is that, or like early 20s or whatever, but my thing is that, no, like the level of ignorance there is, it was like, this is you. This has been, it's integrated in you. Like, you grew up, this is you. So my thing is now, all it is you still think like this. Like, that's how it came across with her personally. It felt like you think like this, but it's just that now you're popular and it's been brought up, you now have to fall back. Because even when it got brought up, she never apologized straight away. She went like on this whole, hey guys, I'm going to make a public statement now. Guys, she was trying to be wrong and strong. So that's what confirmed me that, yeah, no. That was whatever. With the Maya Jama thing, it was more like, all right, it was that more like a secondary school thing, but it was that she was young.
Are we making excuses for Maya Jama because of Stormzy, though?
I'm not, no, definitely not. But
Okay.
what I was going to say is,
Because I love Stormzy, and a lot of the times I'm conflicted. I was hardly conflicted about the whole Maya Jama stuff, because I love Stormzy, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit like, I felt like he was put into a very difficult position when that came out. But
but what I was going to say is that, what it is for me is, even the reason why I'm saying is that they came across as bitter is that obviously I was angry as well, but what it was it seemed that a lot of them, the commentators or whatever on the blog sites and that, a lot of them are overexerting what their pain and their trauma, what they went through, but especially some of those comments. They were overexerting it onto the women, and they were like obviously throwing it back out there. So you see that pain from 10, 15 years ago when you was in secondary school.
Resurfaces, yeah.
So now it's like they were saying some real vindictive stuff. Like they were saying some stuff where it was like, all right, now you're just getting at her, and do you get what I'm saying? And that's where I feel like, all right, now with the cancelling thing, are we just checking someone, or are we now just gonna use our trauma and that?
Throw the baby out with the water.
Literally, because I feel like that's what a lot of it is that the insecurities with a lot of people, because those are the ones that are driving the car, basically. For me, there's people that are pissed, but the ones that are pushing the car and driving and really going hard are the people that they're bitter about a lot of things. And that's just how it comes across.
Yeah, no, but then I think the bitterness is fair to say that, but then the other thing, because you said sheep in wolf's clothing, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying. How do you identify the sheep in wolf's clothing if we always meant to make a pass on someone that? How do you identify between that? And I guess some of the point where Chris just mentioned is that even though that issue resurfaced, they didn't come out and try to explain themselves straight away. They were trying to still be high and strong. Then it makes you actually question their motives. Do you get what I mean? But then I think in regards to the bitterness, the reason why I feel like those bitterness, because I don't feel like the people that's affected, and this could be homophobic or it could be about colorism or whatever, I don't feel like they believe that they have the platform to express some of the things that they've experienced. So, for instance, in the black community, we know about colorism, but we never actually termed it like this. We just grow up, and every one of us could say growing up, there was some sort of preference for light-skinned guys from girls, right? Yeah. And that's because of colorism. But at that young age, we couldn't really, I didn't know that term colorism at that age. And I didn't understand the whole idea of it. But then subliminally in the head, you know, the closer to white is some sort of a preference, right? So we all experienced it. So when you get to a certain age now where some of these people that were the same people in the playground that were acting up, they were regurgitating this, they were emotionally damaging you, when it comes across that one of these so-called celebrities have been doing that, and from the past they release such strong statements, and that's what I'm saying. Because when we talk about the bitterness from the other side, you have to talk about the bitterness from the person that's released those statements. Some of those statements are diabolical. Like when you hear someone talking about another set of women that way or another set of people that way. Like, it's really out of order. So you've released those statements. That's then kind of engaged certain emotions in me. And then I've gone out there to say that. And I want you to be punished because I'm feeling like this is never addressed. I never really have that platform. And this is the only platform where I've had, and other black women or other people that have been affected by this are actually engaged in this communication. And what I'm feeling like, really something needs to happen to you because I don't feel like you really understand what's going on or it has been fully addressed. So I feel like even though those bitterness is coming out bitter, I don't necessarily feel like they are being bitter. I just feel like it's coming from a dark place for them.
Yeah.
And because they've never had that platform, when they have that platform, the only thing that they could do is push. Because for a long time within our communities, we've accepted this type of language for a long time. Yeah, we'll even have conversations, and you say to the guy, "Oh, why do you really like light skins?" That could even be some people's first move to someone. "Oh, why do you really like light skin guys?" or whatever. And we know that it exists within our community, but we don't really have that platform to talk about it like that. We don't have the platform to break it down. So when you see this person, and this is the other added dimension to it, where some people feel that because the only reason why these people are in those positions is not because dark-skinned people are not as talented as they are, but their color of their skin has helped them propelled into that position, right? And the problem that you then have is that you have someone like that who is then dictating to the rest of the black women community because they are now the voice.
Dangerous.
Yeah, they are now the voice, and it becomes quite dangerous because the other people, the other sects of the black community, their voices are not being heard. And they've always felt like this is the case. So the minute that they have that opportunity, of course they're going to come down strong. Of course they want to create this mob type of culture because they all feel like, nah, you can't represent us. You're the wrong person to represent us. You don't represent our ideology. You don't fully understand about us. So I feel like when you talk about the bitterness, it's not like I don't agree that some of it is, but I feel like it's really coming from a dark place. And that dark place then transcends that forward. When you read that one-liner, it makes it sound like this person is so like bitter from this thing that have been mentioned.
Everything you said, I agree with that. When I say bitter, it's not the fact that their intention is to do whatever they're doing. I'm talking about when they start saying certain things now.
Like what?
When they cross the line.
Like
that's when it's so now.
Because I guess someone has crossed the line in order for someone else to cross the line. If you get what I mean. So
that instead of just saying, all right, Stefan Don, for example, this is what you said, this is where you've gone wrong, this is where you need to educate yourself, this is where you need to fix up, and how are we going to move on from here? Like you're just trying to, or even open a dialogue, do you get what I'm saying? For the whole wider community to be that, all right, celebs and us as a community, we all need to talk about this, because obviously, if it's affected you, you should be trying to, you know what I mean, help it move on, do you get what I'm saying? But what they're doing is, like you said, it's just straight getting at them. But it's not even getting like I'm talking that they will move on to that. That's why her mum was. That's why her sister. That's what I'm saying. It's got nothing to even do with her now. Do you get what I'm saying? That's why she. And you'll see, and when you see the people who say the most vindictive stuff, the likes on that particular comment. So it's like, all right, a lot of people have been feeling this way, but now this is out. They've got dirt on that person. Do you get one?
But then this is what it then drills down as in the real pain that some of these people are feeling. Do you get what I mean? Because for someone to say something so vindictive, which is not even about that artist, but about their family, which is totally wrong because it's them that said it. They don't necessarily, it doesn't mean that they're family. Do you get what I mean? Which is so totally wrong. And for so many people to like it, it then talks about the disease that we have in our community of people feeling a certain way, so hurt that they will not be able to talk about that. You could feel someone is being bashed, and this is what I'm saying, because these things, it's never happened to me, and I never want it to happen to me, but I could only understand how someone that is happening to might be going through. These comments coming left, right, center, people that don't really know you, saying all sorts of stuff, how damaging and how much of a mental block that could be, and saying some really nasty stuff about you. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I'm saying. It paints the thing of our community now with this whole social media and the whole cancel culture stuff. What are you going to say? Sorry, Chris. We've kind of just we've just carried him in the loop on what we're discussing. But then I guess leading and getting to this conversation and the added factor, the next step would be, does it actually work? Like this cancel culture, does it work?
All right. Does it work and can it work? That's how I see it. I think it can work, definitely, but at its current rate, it's not working. So the reason why I think it can work is it purely the fact of the whole identifying the wolves out there in sheep's clothing, because people understand political correctness, and someone can have all these feelings that they were saying back in the day, and they're not in a position where they're held accountable or need to be responsible for their comments. But now that they're in this certain position where, certain things I say can affect my money, or certain things I say can affect what happens or what I do, I'm gonna cut back on those comments, or I'm not gonna highlight how I really feel and just kind of weave through as long as I'm getting my money. But really, I don't really support this or believe in it, but it makes me money, so I'm gonna go with it. Do you get what I mean? And it's that aspect of it that I think is good, because it is the only way really you can call people out on these kind of things. I'm trying to think, what other way can people address what someone's done years ago or whatever, and highlight it in that aspect. So I feel it can work, but like I said, it needs terms. It needs some kind of consistency, because it can be manipulated. Other people can use it then, you know what, let's do this whole cancel culture on this person, but someone else can have done the exact same thing, but we're not going to do it so much to them. We're going to leave them out of it. Why do they get let through the net? And so that's why I think that in terms of it working, it can work, definitely can work. And I think it is a great tool to highlight and question certain things that happen. But it needs to be done in a better way than it is being done now, because right now, the mob culture element that kind of comes out of it or leaks out of it is what is more damaging and isn't helping. Yeah.
I think realistically, in the real world, it kind of, if you put it all in perspective, it kind of can't work, because when I actually look at it as well, in the sense of that, it relating back to fitness, so in a way, everyone's kind of being hypocritical as well. Yeah. There's a lot, for me, that's the biggest thing as well. That's why I said use words like bitter and that, because obviously that, again, I get the whole dark place bit, but it's hypocritical. I feel like people, one, they're picking and choosing who and what topics they're cancelling people about. Two, people are forgetting, again, the main thing is that these people are human beings, these so-called celebs. They went through the same schools, the same systems you went through, and they were there when you was saying certain comments about light-skinned people or dark-skinned people. Do you understand that? You did that too. Do you understand? Because obviously Stephen Dunn, she's from, do you get what I'm saying? That these people who were they talking to when they were having them conversations? Do you understand that? These same people cancelling them in your own circles, you was doing that when you was once ignorant. But once people on social media, you're not ignorant no more. You know how to move politically correct, and what? Because you're dark skinned, you won't let someone cuss dark skinned people, but someone starts talking about gay people, you turn a blind eye. Do you understand? It's them kind of things that you're picking and choose that, alright, cool, I get that you want to fight your battles, but look, at the same time, you can't be just going around and forgetting that, alright, these people, they were just once normal people that were holding these kind of conversations in their own circle, and the only reason why now it's this big is because they've got more power and money than you. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, no, all it is they've learned from that, like you have, but the only difference is no one cares about your old shit. You get, forgive my language, they don't care.
Because you're not in the limelight.
Because you're not in the limelight. So no one cares about the average Joe, how he was thinking about in 2004. No one cares about that. When they see that average Joe now, that's all they know. But that celebrity, because they're in that position of power, it's alright, let's see what he said in 2004. What you talk?
So I totally agree with that. And I guess going back to that question, I guess the reason why, just going back to that question, the reason why I don't think it's work is because of a lot of the stuff that you guys have mentioned. Now, in regards to the whole cancel culture, I could be part of the cancel culture because I could just see something on social media and I could see a trend going on in social media. I could be, this person, I can't believe that they did this. We should boycott their movies. Anyone could be part of that because we talk about it, but it's not just a selective few people that are doing this. You're talking about a whole world population. that are entrenched in this. So with this, you're not really going to have any standards or any consistency to it. You're not, because every situation is going to be viewed. Like, we could be us three in here having this conversation, right? Someone could come out and do something. We could be like, nah, that's wrong. All of us will agree. Another person will come out and do something, the same thing, but the context around it could be slightly different. I could be like, oh, but nah, I don't think we should boycott him because of that. And you two could still say, no, we should. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you have that type of thing of of people within a community deciding what is right or wrong, and there hasn't been any set principles in place, but you cannot really set any principles in place, because when I go on the internet, before I go on Twitter, are you going to ask me some specific questions to say this is what cancel culture means, this is what you can do or you can't do? So I don't think it's going to work in that sense. But also, coming back to stuff that we've said in the past, I think there's a variation to this in the sense of what is being said. Now, I know definitely if you were to go back 10 years, however, from when I was young, I've said some off the wall nonsense stuff. And if someone brings it up now, I'll have to address it to say that I was only young and stupid at that time, right? Yeah. But then there is certain stuff that I think it goes a bit deeper and it cuts people when it comes out. So it could be certain stuff that I've said that could cut people. Like when you're having people using the whole colorism and the preference for either white or mixed race people, and it's what they say. Yeah, when you're reading some of these tweets or things that they've put out there, this is quite hurtful for someone to see that. So I feel like we've all said off the wall stuff, but it's the variation of, and then it's in the context of how these things are being said. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like the problem that we have is that we have people that are representing us, and it comes back down to accountability. Whether that person is representing us in the right light or the wrong light. Yeah, because when you have someone that said all this off the wall stuff, what they're going to be representing or who they're going to surround themselves with is not going to be representative to the communities that they live in. Yeah, i.e., if you have someone that's been pushing this agenda of colorism or preference for white or whatever their preference is, they're not going to be showing that the young black girl that looks up to that person, that they could actually be with a black man that's successful. Because that black man that's successful is showing you through their transition that the minute that they hit those pinnacles, they're going to date someone out of their race, right? So in regards to representation, it never represents quite well on the people that, and you can't say it's the people that propel them into that position, because that's not necessarily right, because it comes from different variations. So I think it's quite interesting, this conversation, because on one hand, you want to hold people accountable because these people at the end of the day represent you. So their views are important because they are involved in certain conversations that could either aid or not aid the community. They're involved in certain conversations that could bring more work to that community or not because they have power. Do you know what I mean? So ideally what you want to do is have them represent you in a good light. But also as part of the conversation is that you cannot hold them accountable for things that they said 10 years ago because that might not actually represent who they are. So it's like, where do you draw the line and how do you know the difference between the two? And the one thing I like that you said is sheep in wolf's clothing. How do you actually identify that?
You can't. It's difficult.
So does that then go into the whole idea of this cancel culture and why it's not perfect then?
Yeah, I don't think it's perfect at all. And until those small issues can be addressed, then I don't think it can work. But if those issues were addressed, then it could work. But then to address those issues is difficult in itself. Okay,
so then adding to this conversation, cancel culture, whether it works or not. We know some prominent celebrities that it's actually worked on. Someone like Kevin Spacey, when this whole conversation came out about molesting a young boy, how many years ago? Yeah. He was taken out of that. What's that show that he does? House of Cards. Movies that he was actually like Billionaires Boys Club, he was taken out of it. All the money in the world, all these stuff, and since then, no one's actually heard from him, right? Yeah. You talk about Harvey Weinstein? Yeah. All these allegations against him about sexual abuse or him using his power to then, I can't say meddle with.
Is it the Me Too movement?
Yeah, the Me Too movement and all that type of stuff. It comes from the cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
And definitely. Yeah. And people like Harvey Weinstein, they're not being heard of. We could talk about R. Kelly. Now, R. Kelly, I saw like no one is really concerned about R. Kelly anymore and all this stuff. We could even mention people like Michael Jackson and stuff, right? So when you talk about this whole cancel culture, when we say it won't work or it doesn't work, there's clearly like really prominent people that it's affected and it's kind of worked on. So what's the disparity in that then?
Well, is that it can be easily manipulated. So you could say it definitely worked on those celebrities that you mentioned, but then that same Me Too movement was also used on other individuals, whereby the situation wasn't so clear or transparent. So I'll give an example. Nat Turner, I'm not sure if you remember a few years back, he produced his own film that he was trying to bring out, Birth of a Nation, basically highlighting someone that was really done a black preacher, basically, that done really well back in the days, and his production tanked, and it tanked because people started bringing up an old police case that he had of a woman that basically claimed to be raped, but it all went court, everything, and he was found not guilty. So there wasn't any evidence to prove that he had raped the girl. But then a few years later, the girl committed suicide,
Jesus.
which she said was in relation to that. And my thing is this guy was doing loads of films, whatever, and stuff, but this stuff never ever came out. But when he wanted to do his own thing, it then started to come out.
So you're saying that's more of a vindictiveness of this cancel culture, where someone's just, once you go against the grain, then they start throwing these things at you.
That's what I mean.
But is that always okay? Yeah.
It's the choice thing in terms of why is it now it's being chosen to do, and when is it okay for him and not for this person? It's how it's manipulated, and that's the problem with it.
And it's true. I think the best way, I think that you said, is there needs to be a set of guidelines. If you're gonna have it's that put everyone on the same level.
Brush them on the same brush.
If you say, all right, we're cancelling people from a certain time frame. So it's just real talk.
I said a certain time frame.
If you're saying, all right, if you was thinking like this when you was at a certain age, you'll get away with it. If you wasn't, then you ain't getting away with it.
Yeah, like there's no excuse from this period on. There's no way you can say you didn't know.
Why you say that?
But that's the only way it would work, because you're put. That's what I'm saying.
No, but then even that it won't work though.
Oh, that's the whole.
This is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
that's the whole thing. If it won't work in general, because it's what it is. It's human.
Yeah, but it's some of the stuff that's been done not right though. So some of these people that have done these things that would have never came up because they had so much power. With the whole age of social media now and being able to put people on blast and people for other people to actually listen. And sorry, Chris, I know I cut you off, but let me just finish quickly. Because it's not like, and as you said, it's not like these conversations were not being had in households. It's not like they were not being had in the playground when you were 6 or when you were in secondary school or primary school or whatever. These conversations were being had. And it's the same way applied to, let's say we use the example of Harvey Weinstein. I could never really say his name. It's not like some of these actresses were not having this conversation among themselves or in that community. It wasn't being mentioned. But it was never prominent because people didn't feel like they had a leg to stand on because he was so powerful. Do you get what I mean? So a lot of these things that we're saying as well, I don't want us to get to a point where we're saying, oh, it can't work, it can't work, it can't work. Because there are clear examples of it actually working. Because the same conversation that's been having in this small bubble, once it comes to the light and other people that have been affected by it saying, oh yeah, he did this to me as well, is what actually paints the actual picture of what some of these people have been doing. So yes, on one hand, I understand that there isn't any guidelines and any consistency, but then on the other hand, it brings these conversations that are really bubbling underneath the surfaces, and you could go and meet someone and be like, oh yeah, this person is thin, but you're like, it's just, people say this about this person all the time, until you hear everyone else is saying, you're like, oh wow, right? And it's the same case with the R. Kelly stuff. Everyone that they interviewed never mentioned that they didn't see certain stuff that were inappropriate. None of them actually mentioned that they didn't see stuff that they were inappropriate, or they didn't mention that they saw girls around that they thought they were quite young.
Yeah.
But it was never really tackled. But everyone knew that there's something going on there that doesn't make any sense. Why is he outside McDonald's? Why is he going outside shopping centres? Do you get what I mean? And I'm not saying, I'm not really like throwing another black man under the bus. I'm just saying when it's wrong, it's wrong. That's how I stand, regardless of thing. So that's what I'm saying here. If we're saying that because of all this consistency, it's never going to work. But there's been clear examples of it actually working though. Yeah. Or am I wrong in that?
Do you know what it is? I think the examples of where it worked is, I feel if you're actually looking at it, what helped it work was the actual victims that's come out eventually and said something. Do you see what I'm saying? I remember saying after.
But how is this different from Steph London and the victims that have been affected?
So the
do you know what I mean? Oh, but you're saying this is attributed to one person.
So do you see what I'm saying? Like they shot themselves in the foot with the Maya Jama and the Steph London. These are tweets that they, like what Mo said is their intentions. They've written this as young teenagers or young people at the time, not intentionally thinking, all right, I'm going to be super successful, and do you get what I'm saying? They're just thinking, I'm doing what most 21-year-olds are doing and how they're thinking at this time. So I'm just saying, because at the time, no one brought that up. That never, at that time, in 2000 or whatever year it was, no one said, hey, hold on, you just put this out on the timeline, we're going to check you for it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was that, how come no one checked? Where was all her friends and extended friends? No one checked them.
But people are checking other people for it, though. Other people that might not be famous. There's normal people putting things
that's what I'm saying.
On Twitter.
But what I'm saying is that the Harvey Weinsteins and that, them lot, it was that what helped it was the actual victims have come out. Do you understand? So there was proof of, all right, you lot are doing this. So now what has risen is, all right, now there's going to be solidarity to stop this. So that's why I feel like that's good. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it's not cancelling in the sense, it's cancelling the right way. So it's like, all right, we've got proof this is what's happened. And this is a crime now. Do you understand? This ain't just difference of opinions or we believe that you're talking a certain type of way or prejudice. This is a crime. So now, whatever you've done is cancelled in this thing, in this community. You're shunned. And that is another debate whether that's right or wrong. But my thing is this. It's humans judging other humans. And that's one thing I've never liked. Do you get what I'm saying? It's that for me...
But then we go down the wormhole again. We go down the hole. Because you talk about the whole court system, mate. We could go for endless.
Like, the thing is, where this is, from what I see with this whole cancel culture, it's almost... It's like... And some people might not see the comparison, but for me, and it's not as deep, but it's like, you know, like when the whole cast on the stone thing.
No, like
literally,
who has not seen throw the first stone type of thing?
Stone. It's like when I see
it's straight from the Bible.
Yeah,
you know? I don't even know. I'm just biblically like.
Because literally, like when I'm watching some of the stuff unfold, and I'm seeing people literally casting a stone. It's that.
Yeah, but then by that same ideology, then no one should really be saying anything.
That's no,
right?
But that's not.
By that same ideology, because everyone is sinned, everyone has done something.
But that's what I'm saying. With certain things, so certain things is that like some of the colorism things.
No, but then how? Where do you draw the line, though? The point I'm trying to make is where do you draw the line? Because a lot of the stuff that you guys are saying, and it's not like I don't agree here. It's not, and this is just go past agreeing. What I'm trying to say is where do you draw the line? This, and I'll keep going back to the point that you make. Sheep in wolves' clothing. How do you find the actual wolves in sheep clothing? How do you differentiate between the two? Because basically what's happening now is that, and just going back to the cancelling culture, just going back to the Canadian president, I can't say his name, so
Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau, yes, Trudeau. Yeah, and he, I can't state the year that he did this.
He did it in the 1980s. There's a picture of him in high school in the 1980s.
Yeah.
In the 1990s, he done it again.
Yeah.
And then in 2001,
yeah,
he did it as he was a teacher.
And what did he do? He painted his face.
So in 2001, he went to a Arabian Nights themed party, and he went there dressed as Aladdin. In order to emphasize his appearance of being Aladdin, he did the whole brown face, like painted his face brown and everything.
But these man knows.
Okay, but then what I was just going to add to this is that he did this, right? And the whole cancelling culture thing, they're a bit, what's the word? Basically, they want to give him a pass. right? They want to give him a pass because he's a liberal. He's someone that's been fighting for. And the thing is, I can't really talk about it. So if you guys know about this, I've watched a few clips about it. But from the interviews and stuff that I've watched about it, it kind of seems that he's someone that's been promoting the whole integration and migration with different people from different communities or whatever. No. So when he's now done it, so let's say I'm in the cancel culture community and I see this Trudeau guy as someone that is helping black people integrate or whatever it is, then I find out that he's done something in the past. But then now I'm conflicted and I'm like, no, leave him alone, because he's been propagating or he's been challenging our issues and he's been putting at the forefront. But the idea is, if it's wrong, it's wrong, regardless of who's done it. And if it's on one merit, you're going to say that this person has said the same thing or they've done the same thing and they're racist, then how do you give this person a pass? If they've done it like repeatedly as well. You know what I mean? Because how if you're going as Aladdin, like just the outfit that you're wearing will kind of indicate to someone that he's coming in as Aladdin. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want to go with that, I guess if you're going in as Shaft here, you might have to, I don't know, use some sort of vulgar language or whatever, like shut your mouth or whatever it is that you're going to do. Yeah? But the idea is that the outfit should indicate who you're coming as, or because when black people do fancy dressing or whatever, no, we don't paint our face white, or do people do that? No. Because that'll be part of the conversation. We just go there with the outfit that you're kind of wearing. So how come on one hand it's bad, but then on the other hand you want to give people like him a pass? Then how does that work?
That's what I was trying to say. It's picking and choosing.
So with someone like him, I know that, like I said, he's done it a few times before. In his social circle of Canada, it is actually a common thing that is done in that area of Canada. So at his time and where he's grown up, seeing it and doing it wasn't seen as unusual, or even thinking about its implications wasn't something people thought about, because it was something that was already done among his peers.
So he was ignorant?
As normal, yeah.
To a certain extent.
So to a certain extent, there's the ignorant side of it.
But I do feel
the thing that people struggle to accept is just because of it's the actions of the blackface itself and what it represents and what it was done.
Yeah.
That's how it was used to keep black people out of the film industry. It was used to take the mick and mock out of black people. You know, they used to do with the whole red lips and whatever and things like that. So how it's seen to other people, knowing and seeing him do that, is something that is difficult to accept.
Yeah.
And I can understand people not accepting it in that sense, as in, no, you know what, I can't give him a pass for doing something like that or whatever.
3 times.
No, but then I guess part of the conversation also is that we said the context and the intent, as you said.
So his intent wasn't at that time, from my understanding, was to either take the mick or belittle brown people, Asian people, or anything at the time. It was a fundraiser to raise money. The theme was Arabian Nights, and he was out with his friends having a jolly, getting drinks, and that's what you.
The only thing I can't get past is that you said 2001. Now, if this was the 80s, now even then you should have known better. But by 2001, I don't know where on earth, especially the Western world, where you don't know that blackface or brownface is wrong. Do you understand? So that I don't care what your because obviously you could grow up in a hilly area in the south of rural America, where you grew up in a racist environment, and it's 2019. By the end of the day, you know that this is racist. Do you understand that we know in 2019, your people, whoever your cousins and all that talk, you know this is racist. So once you step out of that society, and you know what I mean, you know this is racist. So if you carry on doing it, or if you've done it, you need to accept that, yo, I used to be like that, like what Coach said, that you need to address that, like, yo, this is how I grew up. We used to do these kind of things, but now that I'm out of it, I know this ain't the way forward.
So what if I throw another spanner in the works? In 2008, there was a film, Tropic Thunder.
I haven't watched it though.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I heard he did that.
He did exactly that.
Yeah. I'm surprised. What was it? Asian man.
playing
Playing
the black person. He was an
Was he playing the black person?
He was an Australian person that was trying to. That was
even
playing
that Australian person.
His role was an Australian person who came to be a general for some army thing, but he wanted to do it as a black man. So he had a whole operation or something to turn himself black.
But that sounds like it was in the context of the film, though.
Yeah, but then in the context of movies in the past, you had white actors painting
and
their
then-
face black, painting their lips red.
No.
So now this is what I'm saying. So
No,
we could contextualize everything, but then it doesn't still.
It's not, rap.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're saying it's a movie and you paint your face
No,
black,
but-
does not excuse it from the president.
It's how it's got written.
That is
it's just
thing.
like with the whole Tarantino.
Yeah, so that's the thing. How it's got written. Why are writers feeling that
yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay
yeah. That's
to write
okay,
something
yeah.
like that
That's-
and to
yeah.
play a white person in a black role? If you want to play a black
No,
role, then
yeah,
put a
yeah,
black
a
person
black
in there.
person
Yeah, that's the
to
thing.
Do
be
you know what I mean?
in
And
churches
that's
or
part
whatever.
of the
Because it's
problem.
like, with me, I used to think like say now, you watch a film like Tarantino when it was out, I can't remember what film it was, and he was saying the N-word loads of times.
And that's all he always do.
But then,
His
he
movies
got
is
checked.
just about saying the
there's
N-word.
a thing where Denzel checked him for it, because certain man ain't gonna accept it. Where it's like, we don't care whether it's the art form or not, it's not right, like what you're saying, you see what I mean? You don't care if you're writing it in, or it's in the world of fantasy, or you see what I mean? It's, you shouldn't be doing black or brown face, or you shouldn't be getting away
So
with it.
with that said, let's just move this conversation along a bit, and saying regarding cancel culture, like, so when you're looking at people like even Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And then you're looking at cancel culture even in the comedy scene, right? Because a lot of comedians are coming under fire for certain jokes. Where you even had Dave Chappelle talking about the boys that were molested and stuff. I don't know if you've seen his.
I haven't seen his sketch, but I heard it.
He's got his sketch on Netflix. What's the name of it?
Yeah, I
I
heard
forgot
of
the name
What
of
boys?
that. The boys that Michael Jackson have apparently molested. Dave Chappelle show Sticks and Stones on Netflix. I guess the reason why I'm turning into this is that someone like Michael Jackson, and we'll talk about comedy and how this is called cancel culture. Because comedy is meant to just talk about wrong stuff. Comedy is being raw. Like if you're going back to some of these Richard Pryor and stuff here, they talk about things that were unheard of. Like even addressing racism. Like in certain mainstream media, you couldn't address it, but a comedian could talk about it. Even though people are laughing, people know it's true. And that's the thing with comedy. Like you laugh and giggle about something, but there's like a truth behind it. So this kind of cancel culture, because then he was cancelled because he said this thing and stuff. But then what I was saying, bringing Michael Jackson, how do you like cancel someone like a legend? Because Michael Jackson, whether you like it or not, regardless of what people are saying that he's done or not, his music is still influential. Some people even call it the whole R. Kelly stuff, saying, oh, but he made bangers though. Like, how can I not listen to R. Kelly because he's meant to have done this type of thing? So the whole idea is this cancel culture and how it might not work. For people like Michael Jackson, it's very difficult because he's so influential and musicians are still using his catalogue of music now.
I think the key thing is with people like Michael Jackson is don't cancel them when they're dead. That doesn't even make sense, that to even do what these guys are doing now. Because all you're doing is his sales have gone up. Do you get what I'm saying? You're not cancelling him. You're not making him answer. Again, it's that.
But with that one, you could never really cancel him.
That's my point.
Do you get what I mean?
So
regardless, even if he hasn't passed, because other musicians are still using. He's got to a level that is uncancelable. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Even if he's alive.
Yeah.
Let's say if it was a Drake.
Now, so let's use someone like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle got cancelled.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter
Nah, it
because
doesn't matter.
Dave Chappelle still.
He was still sold out.
People call him lukewarm now, isn't it? Because he got cancelled because all these things that he said, and people have cancelled him on the homophobic stuff that he's meant to have said, on transgender things that he's kind of said and stuff. But the whole idea of comedy is meant to be like a platform where you should be able to talk about these things because it's meant to be for jokes. So no one should really like take it too personal because black people have been the butt of jokes by black comedians for how long? They talk about how we eat, how we dress, how we have sex, and people laugh at it, and it's all funny. The black people, but then the minute that they tackle other things, it's so wrong. Why is that? Why is that wrong? Because there are some people that in their household could believe that Michael Jackson didn't do those things. But it's almost like this cancel culture. You can't really come out and say that, oh, but they didn't really do it. Because then everyone's like, oh, but what do you mean they did? Do you get what I mean? It's almost, it breeds that whole thing of, that whole mob thing that you guys have said, where you can't think outside of the box to say that, oh, well, but you guys are just saying this. What if you didn't do it? Do you know what I mean? And no one was really giving it that type of conversation. And even someone like Chris Brown was cancelled because of the whole Rihanna, you know.
Sure, to this day.
But he is still kind of making hits. He is still relevant to some point. So how does it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, even though for the prominent people out there, even like Kanye West, stuff that he said about Trump and stuff, but this Sunday whatever that he's doing, it's kind of picking momentum. So this cancel culture then, does it have its limits then? As in regarding the people that it can actually affect.
Definitely, yeah, it does. It has its limits. I mean, like you said, if you get to the Michael Jackson level, then you can try, but you're never really going to cancel someone as big as that. And then also you'll get whereby I just feel like if the talent or the music is so strong and so solid, like yes, you might cancel them for a little bit, but they can come back at it.
I don't know. I just feel like it's wrong. Because for me, I just feel like, and for me, it's like, and this is what I say about.
Because my thing is with the Chris Brown one, yeah. If Rihanna's forgiven him, why the hell should other people still be angry?
That's what
because other people could be angry because they feel like he hasn't actually learned his lesson. They feel like he'll do that to other women. That's why other people could be angry.
Why would they get that impression?
But then that's the thing though. But then this is what they could this is what they could take. Because that's what I'm saying. Myself and both of us looking at a situation. Let's say a car hits someone. Both of us looking at the situation could give two different accounts.
Yeah.
You could say that, oh, it wasn't the guy's fault. The car came from nowhere. And I could be like, oh, but he did look at the car. He saw the car coming. He could have moved out of the way. So this is what I'm saying here.
But even though that someone that is reading the report of those car situations.
Yeah, but so it depends on what report that they read though.
But no,
yeah, because they were not
reading
there.
Both. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But they weren't there. They don't know.
But then they could form up their own ideology of what happened based on experiences that they've had. Touching back on some of the stuff that Chris has said, because a lot of these things, it's quite emotive, isn't it? It kind of like it hits a nerve in order for people to react a certain way. And for anything that hits a nerve, it kind of means that some people might have experienced it before, whether their dad used to hit their mum, or their friend was being beaten up by their boyfriend, so they're totally against it in that way. And then the guy said, oh, you know what, I'll never do it again, but then they keep doing it. So the whole idea of Rihanna forgiving Chris Brown, they would not believe that actually means that Chris Brown is not going to do it again. Do you get what I mean? So it builds that type of pattern, and that pattern comes from people where people have been before. And this is why I say where it's that superficial view of someone where you do not know that person, and all you get is accounts of what they've done, right? And those accounts is being given by different people from the different perspective. So for instance, if I am pro-black or I'm pro Me Too or pro whatever, how I'm going to actually write as a writer, how I'm actually going to write about a certain situation will have ideologies of who I'm actually are. As in, because I'm pro-black, I might be coming off the agenda of, oh no, black people are being impeded, whereby looking at the actual example, that was not the case. Do you get what I mean? The biased view will always be that underlining motives of some of these things that are being written as well. So when you have those type of conversations, then it's quite difficult for someone to separate themselves from it, because they're only taking it literally as in, you done something, you hit a woman. I don't believe like a man should ever hit a woman for doing that. Because I feel like in this society, we almost come into a point where we do not believe that people could change. And that's like the wrong thing of things. Like, whether the person have done it repeatedly or not, people can change. We have been able to change our viewpoint. I could have changed my viewpoint from yesterday. But then if you were to talk to me about what I said yesterday, it might come out all wrong. But now I might not feel like that, because I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Based on certain stuff I said and certain stuff that you said, oh, you know what? I actually believe what you're saying. Actually, that, do you get what I mean? And it's almost like these conversations, it never really gives people the chance to actually change. So let's do a bit of a wrap up then. Where we got to was the whole cancelling culture and whether that really works. So as we spoke to people like legends, as in Michael Jackson, we also gave the example of the whole Chris Brown, Kanye West, and all these type of people that are meant to be cancelled. So I guess really just looking back at the end of this conversation though, what's you guys like? What's your final view?
For me, I just feel that one, if it was to ever happen in a structured way where you're just educating and informing the person who you're trying to cancel, then that makes sense. But if you're going overboard, then there's no point. It doesn't help or benefit anyone. Two, I feel like you should be trying to, if you're going to cancel people, like celebs and that, you should be cancelling people in your everyday life and in your communities. If you start off fixing up people in your communities and people right next to you, whether it's your brothers, cousins, family members, friends, if you not allow them to get away with certain rubbish and stuff like wife beating or not taking care of their wife and children, then celebs won't be able to, it won't arise to the point where celebs will be pulling these stunts, because everyone in the community would have blacklisted those people anyway, so people would know that our society's moved on from that. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's all it is. And the whole picking and choosing, I feel like people shouldn't pick and choose. They should keep that energy all year round for everyone if they're going to be cancelling. And to be honest, I don't like the word cancelling. It's just inform and educate, don't cancel. Because the person, even if they have done wrong, they should have the right to be able to get the chance to come back from it. And that's the key thing. I don't want to see people's careers destroyed. Even if I didn't like the person myself, people shouldn't have their livelihood destroyed or their lives destroyed, especially for something they did in the past that other people do as well, for them being human beings. That's what I don't get. For them being human beings, you're cancelling their whole lives. And them at 19, 25, 10 years ago, one moment doesn't define them for the rest of their lives, and that's crazy. That's for me.
Yeah, I think there is definitely evidence that's shown that the cancel culture has worked and has helped, but I feel generally I don't like anything personally that is exclusive. I personally believe in an inclusive approach to any form of matter or situation, and I think how it's used kind of takes away from having the discussion and the debate and trying to resolve exactly what's happened. Mainly why I referred back to the whole intention and context matters, because it's only understanding those two things that you can generally either resolve this situation and learn from it, as opposed to being dismissive and just closing it off completely, but not necessarily tackling what the problem or the issue was. So yeah, I think it definitely is something I feel it does more damage than it does good. So for that reason, I personally don't think it's something that will ever really work, unless you can find some way of putting some terms or mitigations in, but even that in itself is too difficult to do. So I just think that, it's not something our society will find will help in the long term. It might be a short-term fix for a lot of these situations, but I do feel there will definitely be a long-term problem down the line because of it.
Yeah, so cancel culture, I guess it's not perfect, but I don't believe that it will ever be perfect, because it's not an organization. This is not a union. No one sits there and sets out their rules and regulations for how we as an organization are going to be represented, because this is really a culture that anyone could delve in and out of, depending on what conversations are being had. I feel like it's a good thing in the sense that it's bringing certain conversations to light, and it's bringing certain conversations that are not being had on the mainstream arena. Also feels like it holds people accountable for views that they've shared in the past. And I'm not one to say that those views should now affect you, but I'm very intrigued to understand how that person actually feels about some of the views that they put out there now. So it's almost like when you look at the prison system, and I was watching The Breakfast Club, and they had, what's his name on there? What's this South African Trevor Noah, South African comedian? And he was saying that the whole thing about the cancel culture is because it's almost like he doesn't give people a chance to reform. It's almost like you stick someone in jail and then they come out of jail and you don't really want them to get any jobs, everything is against them. How is that person ever going to be part of that community? And it kind of like, it kills the conversation, it kind of buries it, instead of actually having a real conversation about why people feel the way they feel. Because some views that are being shared by this supposed celebrity, there are people that actually believe that, and there are other people that are against it. So the people that are cancelling it are the people that are against it, but there are some people that truly believe that. There are light-skinned people that believe some of these things that have been shared about colorism, that feel like they're superior, or what. There are people that feel that. So if you never have that close conversation, those people are always going to feel that. So you don't really deal with the issues in the communities, because you're saying that I'm cancelling this person, I'm not giving you a voice because your voice is very toxic, so we're not going to give you that voice. But I also believe that in some cases that needs to happen, where you can't put some people that have been put to represent us, they cannot be the key people to represent us because their views are quite toxic. And it doesn't really represent us in a good light. And I guess I'm being controversial. So I just feel like you're never really going to have it perfect. But on one hand, I feel like a lot of these people that are saying these things, they are humans, as you said, Chris, and I totally agree with that. But I feel like if at any point in my life, someone wants to bring up something that I've said in the past, the only thing I'll say is that just give me the platform to be able to let you understand my train of thought there and my train of thought now. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything I've said in the past, I've actually moved away from it. It could still be that I actually still believe in what I'm saying. But then that goes into the whole thing of me saying something in order to still fit in and in order still to get sales or in order for people to still see me in a good light. So it's a very conflicting conversation. And I feel like the normal person being able to hold someone accountable, that now it bridges that gap of you actually being able to pull someone up. And actually, the thing I don't like about that is that person being blackballed. What I do like about it is that person actually being able to come out and say something because they are in a position that represents a lot of different people. And it's good to get that viewpoint of why they thought the way they thought of before. Thank you for listening to this episode of the LDN Perspective podcast. Please get in contact with us. We want to create more of an organic platform. So if you have any questions, please check our Instagram page, which is LDN Perspective. You could also reach us on Twitter, Perspective LDN. And please, you could always drop us an email at ldnperspective@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Perspectives, different views, one voice.